Dog training tools can boost your training process and they can provide safety, but they can also be hurtful or harmful to your dog. So let's go through them together and see which ones are a thumbs up and which ones are a thumbs down. And in the end, I will even show you one that is a complete game changer for one specific training. That's why it gets a special place. Now, let's start and tell me in the comments if you use any of these or if you use something completely different. First one on the list is, thankfully, rarely used, training discs. Training discs are metal discs that get thrown next to the dog to startle the dog and interrupt a behavior we don't want to see. So it's intended for corrections. But what it does is it can trigger sound sensitivity in dogs, and it can also happen that the dog connects something completely different than we wanted with the correction. That's just true for every correction, all right? So maybe you're walking your dog and your dog pulls and you throw the discs and your dog gets startled while your dog spotted a kid on a bicycle. Now, what could happen is that your dog connects the scary thing, so the sound, with the kid on a bicycle. And from now on, kids on a bicycle trigger the same emotional response. Also, we don't need corrections in training. So for the training discs, thumbs down, definitely. And the next thing is kind of similar. It's the same use, but it looks different. So we're talking about water bottles, so squirting bottles that are used to squirt water in the dog's face. Rattling bottles, so bottles filled with stones or coins, something that makes some kind of rattling noise. So again, we are at startling the dog for the use of correcting him. Same thing as with the discs. So again, no, don't use it. The next thing is actually something we use all the time, but we kind of forget that we can actually use it for training. Our phones. Our phones are wonderful training devices. They can give us access to training plans, right? If we have training plans online, and I do that with my teams, for me, it's a wonderful way to just give them easy access to whatever they need, and they can just look at the training plans wherever they are. So this is one huge advantage of using a phone. But the even bigger one is making videos. On a video, you see yourself and your dog from a different perspective. So you can see the mistakes you're making, you can see what works well and how your dog reacts to whatever you do, how you react, and some things we just do subconsciously, so we don't think about it, right? Like driving a car after a few years. You don't need to think about it and you still do it. So those are things that slip our conscious mind, and if we have it on video, we can actually see it and work on it. So big thumbs up. Phone in training is awesome. The next thing is a clicker. A clicker is actually the opposite of the first two things. So it is a sound again, but this time we're connecting positive things, so rewards, with the sound. So a positive emotion for the dog, and it can be substituted with a marker word, so you don't have to carry an additional thing around, right? So this is a big game changer in training. It makes you way more precise. It makes your training process way faster. So yes, big thumbs up on the clicker. Now the next thing is kind of a mixed thing. We're talking about head halters or head collars. So everything from a halty to gentle leader. Now, these tools can be awesome for very strong dogs and provide more safety for us as the handlers, right? But these tools can actually be really hurtful, and they can damage the dog's neck severely in the long run. So these tools are kind of a mixed thing, right? They can be good, they can be bad. Definitely only use them with a professional who can guide you through the process. All right. Also, the dogs have to get used to wearing them. So this is a little bit of an additional training process. The next thing are treat pouches. Treat pouches or treat bags come in all sizes. So you can either only store treats in them, or you can store treats and toys and other things like your phone. And they are all awesome, so big thumbs up. It gives you easy access to rewards, and rewards in training make a huge difference. So it helps getting the dogs motivated, it helps working together, so this is something that's an absolute must-have for every training session. So kind of the opposite of the next one. The next one is an anti-bark or training collar. Now, those can look very differently, right? They can make a sound, they can vibrate, they can have electroshocks, they can have prongs, they can have a choking option. So they come in all shapes and sizes, and all of them are completely unnecessary and painful or scary for your dog. So this is something you will never need to use. And it's the same thing with an anti-pull harness. Now, a lot of harnesses get the name anti-pull, and they are just regular harnesses with a ring in the front. Those are fine, but there are anti-pull harnesses who tighten whenever the leash tightens. So they have ropes behind the elbows, and whenever you pull on the leash, the ropes tighten. So again, this works through pain. And we don't need to train our dogs through pain. So again, big no-no, you don't have to use those at all. The next thing is again a mixed thing. We're talking about one of the most commonly used things in our dog communities, and that's a leash, right? Everybody uses a leash, or not everybody probably, but most people use a leash. But a leash can be a wonderful tool for connecting you with your dog, for providing safety, all these awesome things. But it can also be used like the training collars in an aversive way. So it can be used to do leash corrections. It can hurt your dog, especially those slip leads. Don't use them. They're just unnecessarily painful. And there are better ways of training your dog. And especially in small dogs, they often get used for dragging the dog along. And that is uncomfortable. It's not painful, it's not scary, but it's uncomfortable, right? So be mindful with your leash. Of course, we need leashes to keep us safe, but be mindful with it and use it as a connective thing and not to punish your dog. So keeping that in mind, thumbs up for a leash, all right? And of course, we have to attach the leash to something. So the most used tool in my experience is a collar or harness. Now, I'm a big advocate of harnesses because, yes, they have to fit really well to be comfortable for the dog, and some dogs don't get used to them. That's when a collar makes more sense. But for most dogs, a harness is a more comfortable option because whenever they get startled and jump away, the leash tightens suddenly. It's more comfortable on a harness. It doesn't take pressure to the neck. So that's one advantage. But it also provides more safety for reactive and fearful dogs, especially fearful dogs. They need safety harnesses. They need to be secured so they cannot slip out of the collar and be gone forever, right? And for reactive dogs, what a harness does, since it's more comfortable whenever the reactivity happens, when we slip up in training or whatever, it's not as uncomfortable. So we are not adding an additional discomfort to a dog who is already feeling uncomfortable, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't react. So yes, thumbs up for harnesses and a little bit of a mixed thing for a collar. Now, I promised you something special, and this is not something that is commonly used, but it's really, really cool, and that's a furbo camera. Now, yes, you can use other cameras, and this is especially something we can use for home alone training. And other cameras are awesome, right? Especially if you just starting out, or if you want to see whether or not your dog even has a problem. But if you go deep into training and you want to change something, I like the furbo, because the furbo has a treat dispenser, which can be helpful in different situations, and you can use it as a treat dispenser alone for a variety of training skills when you don't want to reward your dog out of your hand. But it also has the camera option, so you can see what your dog's doing when he's alone. which is absolutely awesome. Now, if you want to see how you can use those tools, everything except the furbo, in training, and how you can get started, watch this video.